a sense that many of us have of the connectivity within the natural world. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on connectivity in the natural world is that the most important thing that scientists and artists and anyone else needs to understand is that the human brain fundamentally is a pretty flawed piece of hardware. True, it does some amazing calculations and runs on like a watt, which is kind of cool, but at the end of the day it's evolved, not designed. It runs software that is uploaded gradually by the education process, and it's severely limited in I/O. It can do about 10 bits a second at best. What often happens is that someone will go out and have a wonderful day out at the beach, and they'll eat some nice food and look at the sun and feel good, and then they'll be like, all living creatures must be connected. And then somehow from there induct their way to being able to talk to their horse via ESP. And I, as you may have gathered from this discussion, think this is somewhat of a silly idea. I have no problem whatsoever with people having a good time, even if I'm incapable of it. But I think it's important that you need to hedge and preface any sort of thoughts and concepts in this idea with the realization and the understanding that the human brain is fundamentally something that is very, very good at finding patterns like, the trees are rustling, I bet there's a tiger's going to eat me over there, and avoiding getting eaten, which tends to mean that it tends to see things that aren't there. On the other hand, it is very obvious that in nature things are connected in ways that humans might not necessarily appreciate, or in ways that don't really match up with the ways that we think about, when people say, everything in nature is connected. I mean, like, it's a bit of a truism, because on one level it's obviously true. We're all part of a food chain, and we all breathe the same air, and we're all made of the same stuff that all came out of the same dead star. Especially with animals that tend to think a bit like humans, that have human-like brains, they tend to emote and can understand each other's ways of thinking fairly well via empathy, which I like to think of as like emulation, where like your brain has a little part of it that like practices thinking like a dog, so you can understand how a dog works, and then you can like tell the dog to catch the sheep or something. So in that sense, things are rather connected. And the other thing I think it's important to realize is that humans tend to not see times outside of their own as particularly salient, but the atoms that we're made of actually are older than the Earth, and the Earth is made of much the same stuff. And those atoms were formed in a dying star like 5.5 billion years ago or something, and those atoms in turn were made from other atoms that formed at the beginning of the universe. And so, there's like 10 to the 25 atoms in a person, which is a really big number. Some of those atoms were probably in like all kinds of other living things before. In fact, all kinds of living things before. It's not a particularly difficult thing to show that when you take a breath of air, you're breathing like 15 atoms of oxygen in common with Julius Caesar. And that's just one of those kind of realities where there's more room between us and the bottom than there is between us and like the scale of the Earth. So I think that's kind of a neat thing. The atoms in your body, which the vast majority of which don't even stay in your body for your whole life, they're gradually cycled out with other atoms, have always been parts of other things, and then they kind of went through space and time, and then gradually they came together, and for a little bit of time they're kind of vaguely associated, and some of them even do thinking, which is weird. They're thinking about themselves, and then after you die, more or less quickly dissipate back out. Well, I'd say through the universe, except most of them are pretty well stuck to the Earth by gravity.